Well, joining us today is Fred Banfield, the founder and chairman of Mintec Incorporated, a Tucson-based software development firm. Fred, thanks for joining us on the Arizona Mining Review.
Well, thank you for having me.
Let me offer congratulations first on getting the President's E-Award for Exports. Only company in Arizona to get it, and one of 57 nationwide. So what is it about Mintec that puts you guys in this world-class category?
Well, I don't know, world class. It sounds pretty impressive. Well, I guess a lot of we got the award, I think, because a lot of our business is overseas.
Okay.
We're in the mining business, and that's a global business. And we're in our particular area. There's only about 3 or 4 companies that do what we do, and in order for us to compete with them, we have to be every place in the world where there's mining, safe mining.
Right. Okay. Well, now your main software products incorporate geology, engineering, modeling, planning. Has that really been the key to your success, or what are the other parameters there that really have put you guys in the lead?
Well, we started out being mostly consultants, auditing reserves, calculating, doing feasibility studies, but we developed the software for that, and so we gradually found life was easier selling software than working 20 hours a day doing consulting work. So we became a software company. We still do some consulting. We have several dozen people that work on consulting jobs, and probably have 100 technical people in our company that provide services to our clients.
Wow. Well, now, when you started the company in 1970, and I understand you started it in your apartment.
Right.
And but today you've got offices in 7 other countries. You've got sales reps and technical reps around the world. But the headquarters is still in Tucson, and the bulk of your staff is here.
Yeah, we have a little over 100 people here in Tucson.
Okay.
And we have 250 worldwide. And most of the offices have opened to provide support and training for our clients. Santiago, Lima, Perth, Australia, Johannesburg, and London. I think that's it.
Okay.
We actually have some agents in
Right.
China, Thailand,
Right.
and Brazil.
Yeah, I saw that you had Australia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, China, Mexico, Peru, South Africa, Thailand, the United Kingdom, and it looks like from your website I see training classes going on all over the world.
Yeah.
So how's it changed from an operation running out of your apartment to a global empire like this?
Well, I guess technology's changed in our business every day, because in the beginning we didn't have computer graphics. We made maps by printing them on printer paper and pasting them together and coloring them.
Okay.
And now we have very sophisticated 3-dimensional graphics, and
Right.
But all these tools require more effort to program, so our applications take longer to develop
Okay.
than they used to.
That was one of my questions, because starting in 1970, I'm thinking back to the computer capabilities, and then, there were a handful of big giant computers scattered around universities and some research centers. So how do you start from there? And so I guess part of my question is, I'm looking at your modeling software now. It's incredible 3D visualization and integrating all of those things. Where's the technology going with this? It sounds like as the technology's expanded and increased, it's given you opportunities to do things you've never done before. So where do you see things going as the technology gives you more capabilities here?
Well, there's actually 2 sides to that question. One side is, how do we ensure that what we do is correct? Because with the computer, we have the ability to make very impressive displays, but sometimes the visualization if it isn't carefully reviewed, it may not be accurate. And so it's like writing a report. With a lot of the tools we have today, we make beautiful looking reports, but they may not be any better than they would have been on a carbon paper 20, 30 years ago. But there are some new techniques we've been using. There's one thing we found in the new technology called radio bias function that allows us to build mathematical models of geologic shapes just from the drill hole data.
Really?
So yeah, it's quite exciting. It's a tool that allows people to very quickly visualize what could happen or could be represented. Because in our business, what we're trying to do is take three-dimensional data, which are basically drill holes or sticks of data, and build some kind of interpretation of what happens between them. And as a geologist, you know that there are multiple ideas on what goes on.
Yeah.
So this is a way of building some different models of what goes on very quickly.
Okay. Now, you've just recently posted something on your website talking about soft geologic boundaries.
I guess that would be partly related to this.
Yeah,
this
and
tool.
that's what struck me, and it was a term I hadn't heard before, but as I read what you're doing with it, I think it's the same thing, or it's part of that same problem. And can you elaborate a little bit? I think the concept was new to me, and I suspect a lot of the folks who are viewing this are going to ask, what is a soft geologic boundary?
Well, actually, it's a good question. I'm not sure where you saw it, but
Yeah.
basically in modeling mineral deposits, we're more interested in the grade than the actual geology often.
Okay.
And so the grade boundaries sometimes we assume in this modeling that they once you go across a boundary, things change dramatically. In other words, a fault.
Right.
That's a hard boundary.
Okay.
But then there are other things when, say, in a oxide sulfide deposit, when you gradually get down into the sulfide material, that'd be a soft boundary because it's gradual.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
we have mathematical methods to treat both kinds of cases.
So it sounds like in addition to the computer developers, programmers, you're now getting mathematicians and statisticians and a lot of other
Yes.
expertise.
Yes, we have originally, myself and another fellow wrote most of our programs. And we're mining engineers, not computer programmers, though we think we're quite clever at it. But we found that as we go on, a lot of the tools we use are fairly more sophisticated, geostatistical tools and optimization tools. We use some mixed integer programming, linear programming, dynamic programming, and so a lot of tools that
Wow.
require significant mathematical backgrounds.
Jeez. So can you talk a little bit about the staff makeup you have of the 100 people here in Tucson or the 250 worldwide? Engineers, geologists, mathematicians, but
We
what
have
other-
probably about 60 to 70 people that are mostly programmers, so that they develop the software. And then we have about 100 people spread over all the offices that are engaged in supporting our clients
Okay.
and doing training. So we have a call system, a support system where they can call and get support anywhere in the world very quickly.
And you're probably having to do that in more languages these days.
Oh yes,
as
we
well.
have. We have a lot of capabilities in different languages, especially Spanish, because we have a lot of South American clients. But we have everything from Russia, Chinese, Portuguese, and so on.
Okay.
But mostly, most of our software is all in English.
Okay, sure. That's probably globally the case with all of us dealing in
Yeah.
technical areas. Where do you see the biggest changes coming in the mining industry that you're trying to respond to or try to deal with? What are the demands from the industry or requirements that's helping drive where you're heading?
Well, we go through areas where different things become important. The last 10 years, one of the biggest things has been validation of results or auditing, because of about 12 years ago there was a significant problem where a mine in Indonesia was expected to have reserves that weren't there
This
because
is
somebody.
the Bre-X
Bre-X.
scandal. Right?
So since
Yes.
then, there've been a lot of regulations, and so a lot of the work is finding ways to validate or support the results
Okay.
and or audit them. That's one thing, and but yeah, a lot of work we do is beginning to go out into other areas, mostly linking with the rest of the enterprise computing systems where our data flows up to the rest of the company, so that everything gets integrated into one
Right.
information chain, so to speak, from one end to the other, so we can make sure that we do things that help to make the
Right.
process the best.
And so then it becomes even more critical to have that transparency or the verification, because if that's incorporated into a company's system,
Yeah.
it's easy for it to become a black box.
Yeah.
And they're bringing their data in, their software, and all of a sudden something's coming in from you, and they may not realize where it's coming in.
Yeah.
And if there's a problem there, it affects everything else.
Now you put your finger on a very significant problem that we have, and that we feel that we're kind of at the center of the raw data. We have the mining,
Okay.
the geology, and the grade estimates, and then we take and do reconciliation, and this information goes to other places to be used to evaluate things like in the pit when they blast. The fragmentation has a lot to do with the recovery in the mill, and so if we can track that, the pattern, the powder usage and everything, and then go and then link it to data from the plant, we can improve the process. So, but all of this data is only good if it's well verified, and that's always a problem.
Okay, I can see that.
Especially with computers, we can gather, well, just like the government's doing, we can gather an awful lot of data, but the analysis of it and finding the anomalies that actually exist is one of the biggest problems.
Well, the old adage of garbage in, garbage out.
Yes,
and
that's
all of
still
that.
very true.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Perhaps even more so than it has been.
Yeah, it is, because
Right.
back to what I said about auditing results and visualization, the results can look very good until you look closely, and the computer allows us to make the pretty pictures, but
Yeah.
it doesn't take away the fundamental requirement for people to think, and that's kind of some of the things. As an older engineer,
Right.
I spend a lot of time trying to emphasize for our staff that don't just plug numbers into the
Right.
computer. Think about it.
Right, and for our generation, we were the guys who had to do the slide rules or the pencil and paper out there on the site, and
That's
you
right.
actually had the numbers right there, so you knew what
That's
you were
right.
working with.
We knew how to do it by hand,
That's right.
but now a
Yes.
lot of the new people have never. They don't even know about planimeters and slide
Right.
rules and even desk calculators. It's all
Yeah.
done with
Punch a
software
button.
tools. Yeah.
Right.
So.
I was looking at the blog for the company, and it was quite interesting. You have there some of the standard things that a company blog might have,
Mhm.
which is, hey, we have an exhibit at this trade show, or here's our training course over here. But there were also pictures in there of staff out on a bike ride,
Yes.
or in a tug of war or something at county fair, and reports here and there. There was a great one about your last birthday party there, and,
Oh.
and that. So there's a real sense there that the company is still kind of like, almost like it's run out of your apartment still. There's a real sense I got of kind of a small, closely knit staff, and I wonder if you want to make any comments about just, even though you've got, what, 350 people on the
250, yeah.
or 250 on the payroll
But
here.
we may.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we try to. It's a difficult thing as a company grows to make sure that you don't change the culture and to make sure we're all on the same page. So
Mhm.
that's one reason we spend a lot of time, the senior people, traveling to our offices all over the world, because we want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And it's spent a lot of time on that, and
Okay.
internally. You know, our objective is not only to do the best for our clients and give them the best software, but also to provide an environment for our workers to progress and have a good life,
Certainly comes across that way.
enjoy
Yeah.
themselves.
So,
Yeah.
well, that's obviously part of your success formula there, is great products,
Yeah.
but also it looks like a really great team and a great place to work, so.
Well, we try.
Yeah, well, that's great. Fred, thanks very much for coming in. This has been really very exciting. We're excited to have this company in Arizona, in Tucson, and it's one that I think a lot of people didn't realize you were here. You're probably well known all over the world, but I don't think most Arizonans realize that this is a center of one of the leading companies in the world in this area. So.
Well, there are quite a few other companies here too
Yes.
this is a center of a lot of mining
Yeah.
technology and consulting.
Right, and I think people in the state hear about the big companies that may be mining, but they haven't heard about the infrastructure that's behind them, supporting them. And I'm hoping we can showcase more of your compadres here on the show and talk about just this other side of the mining industry and what it brings to Arizona.
Okay.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our producer, Mike Conway, cameraman, Jordan Maddy, our design team with Arnie Bermudez and Stephanie Marr, and our IT guy, Ron Palmer. This show was recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel at the URL coming up on the screen. So we're looking forward to seeing you next month on Arizona Mining Review.